We are rocking and rolling. Melbourne have life after their first victory of season 2025. Adrian Horton with you. I've got Caden McDonald on the line. Of course, this is the official, unofficial podcast of the Melbourne Demons, the DeeBrief. I'm very pumped up. I'm very excited. Caden, we did it. We broke through. We got a win. Far out, it felt good. And I tell you what, mate, I was very jealous not to be there because, number one, I couldn't believe there were 25,000 there. So happy to cop that one. I only thought 15,000 would rock up. So fair play to the Melbourne faithful for getting to the MCG. And the second part is, it sounded electric. What was it like, my friend?
Yeah, it was great. 4 points. Finally, the first time we've won a game since, I don't know, like 240 days or something. So,
yeah, like
as supporters,
5 years or something. It felt like 5 years, didn't it?
Oh, it felt like a lifetime. And I don't think we've won one in Melbourne maybe since the Bombers game. But yeah, it was great. I haven't felt, because we haven't kicked consecutive goals for a while. When Kozzy kicked that goal from the goal square and then went back through the middle and he kicked that next one, I think that skipped us out to 5 odd goals in the second quarter. I got out of my seat. It was standing ovation. We're on here type moment. So, yeah, the boys were on and put on an unbelievable performance.
Mate, it was absolutely brilliant. It was everything that we've wanted to see since the very beginning of the season. It's just taken us 6 weeks to get here. I'm glad we're here now talking about this because, of course, you and I, a couple of weeks ago, I was definitely doom and gloom. I've been doom and gloom for at least 3 or 4 weeks, probably ever since the North debacle. So to see it turn, in Goody's words, and he was very bullish, he was very steadfast in all of his press conferences. The thing I'll have to tip my hat to begin with is to give him some credit and some kudos. It is only one game. However, the thing that I really liked from Goody is the fact that he made some tactical tweaks and he came up trumps. And you just got to say fair play to the man because it was very ballsy to put Harrison Petty forward, of course, and putting Disco Turner back again, a crucial decision. I think he played really well before he was subbed out with concussion. And then there are a few other tactical tweaks throughout the game that we'll dissect in a bit of detail. But I just wanted to put the main man on the agenda first and say, yes, I'm a detractor and I'm not sure if he's still the man to take us forward into the future. But my God, he shut me up and a lot of Melbourne supporters up on the weekend because that was as tactically, I guess, as spot on as he's got it for a long time.
And he seems to do it sort of 4 or 5 times a year. Like there's 4 or 5 occasions every season under Simon Goodwin where I go, oh man, he's pulled a rabbit out of the hat or he's sort of pulled some levers that has either gotten us into a game or won us a game. So it was cool to see him do that again. And I think last year there was a couple of wins, especially the Geelong one when they were undefeated. And then we went up to the Gabba and we were really good for a whole game and didn't quite get the victory. But there's just been some signs every season with Goody where I go, man, this is good coaching. And we hadn't seen it this year. I guess at the start of the GWS game, I thought, with the inclusions of a couple of the Werribee VFL boys and a couple of 18-year-olds in Langford and Lindsay, I thought, that we could have pinched that. But then, we fell off a cliff for 4 weeks and it was really rough. But his messaging's been pretty consistent about the vibe I sort of got from him was it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I felt like even when we're in that slump for 4 or 5 games, I thought, man, it might not click till halfway through the year. The year's obviously, it feels like it's wasted already. But if we can get it right, maybe we can see light at the end of the tunnel for the rest of this season and give ourselves a platform for next year. And on the weekend, it felt like that first step forward in seeing light at the end of the tunnel. But it is only one victory. And we've got 2 games coming up that, if we are making steps forward, we have to bank. And I think we're still going to be a frustrating team in 2025. I think we're going to rip our hair out at the MCC for multiple times because they are biting off stuff in the middle and they are going the extra handball and we're going to get ourselves caught and get ourselves tangled up and, probably lose more frustrating games. But it just feels like after the weekend that you can see light at the end of the tunnel with what they're trying, at least, which is the first time we could see it this season.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the passage of play in the second quarter, out of D50, Bowey with the beautiful kick out to Colton Tholstrop down the line to, I can't remember off the top of my head. And then there was that incredible handball link up and chain, and Gawney with the little 1-2 into Spargo, out into space into, I think it was Harvey Langford, who bombs it
Yeah, it
long
was.
down the line. Petty takes the grab, Kozzy in the goal square. Far out. I was getting so excited. I was watching it here at home in Yarrawonga at my parents' place with my little brother and my old man, and we were going ballistic. We were jumping on each other. We were yelling like absolute morons. My little brother's wife was trying to have a nap because she's pregnant. So I don't know if she napped too much during that second quarter because we were cutting absolutely sick. And the the emotion got the better of me as well because I've been pretty disenchanted. I've been pretty apathetic
Yeah.
in the past month. Like I've not wanted to let it get the better of me, and I'm like, hey, come on, mate. There's bigger things here. You've got two young children. Just focus on them. Don't worry about the footy. Don't let it get you down. So I've tried to be really balanced, neutral, objective, and less emotional about it, which I guess is what you should do anyway if you do a podcast of this nature. But fucking hell, I once we were in a game and I could tell that we were going to sustain it, and you kicked the 12-2 to half time, I got that overwhelming sense of, oh, I want a victory so bad. I want this so bad. I need this. Like I've missed this. So I can imagine there's a lot of Melbourne supporters listening and watching this right now who had the exact same feeling. As soon as we knew we were in it, Kados, I think the players rose to the occasion as well, because there was a part of me that thought, okay, maybe in the third quarter when Fremantle figured this out and they got some momentum in the game themselves and they started to kick a couple and eat into the margin, I thought, oh, here we go. Like it's going to be the same story. But I think the very fact that we responded at the end of every single quarter and rallied was probably the most impressive thing from a team perspective. There are some incredible numbers to highlight that, the 27 tackles inside 50 to 4, and I'll bring up a stat around that a bit later that came through from Andrew Whelan, who does Wheelo Stats, an incredible site for anyone that wants to delve deeper into all the data and analytics around footy games. But I think that desperation came through clearly in the first quarter. They maintained it in the second quarter. And then when Freo started to really ramp it up in the third quarter and we met them head on, we met that challenge head on and we responded with goals, I was so proud of that part of it. That was the bit that was the overwhelming sense of pride that we, in weeks gone by, we would have just let that slip and we would have fallen away. But Melbourne found a way, and that's what I absolutely loved and cherished with that win yesterday. And we were watching the replay again this morning, as we all do, us snuffy fans, and we all said the same thing. My dad and my little brother and I, we said that's the most impressive part, because good teams, when they get challenged, they respond, and we found a way. So over the moon with that part of the game that we were able to continue to hit the scoreboard when it looked like Freo were potentially taking it away from us.
Yeah, and we did that throughout the whole game. Like the way I would describe how we played like a boxer that just has a really stiff jab. And it just felt like every time Fremantle got a little bit of confidence and almost put us on the back heels, we'd just stiffen up with the jab, with a goal that would respond, or like a tackle that would cause a stoppage. There was just so many times in game, in quarter, where we, yeah, as you said, responded. And it was quickly. Like they didn't have ascendancy that much. Like they'd work really hard for a goal, and then we'd get a clearance sort of circa 2021 style, walking it out. Whether it was Viney or Koz, we had so many shots from walking it out of centre clearance. It was insane how much score we could generate from that part of the ground, which has been a real letdown of ours for a long time. And yeah, like there's been times this season where we're getting flogged by lowly sides and we're moving the ball well, but we're not executing that last handball. But then we've lost a bit of our midfield. We've lost a little bit of our contest, our defense. And there were weeks there where we were just a mess across the board, and we're going like it did feel like we're on the edge of a cliff, and like we're not far away from blowing the whole club up. And the reason we felt like that was because we lost every part of our identity. And like maybe throughout those losses, if we had beaten teams up, but not being able to execute, North Melbourne limp over the line, it's like you can cop it. But we were getting beaten in areas where we should be good. And it was just amazing to get back to it a little bit. And I wrote on Twitter during the week that Goody's last couple of press conferences have really impressed me because it's felt like he's been on the ropes, and he's normally sort of like really robotic, which in one way he gets criticized for, but on the other way, like being unemotional and just being really pragmatic as a leader can come across like quite strong. And that's sort of what you want as someone. You don't want someone like punching walls in the coach's box and throwing jabs in press conferences. You sort of want someone who just feels like nothing really gets to him. But I felt this sense of urgency in his voice the last two press conferences. After the Essendon game, he was like John Ralph wandered into the presser trying to get a scalp, went down and started asking about his future. And I was worried, and it could still be like sort of famous last words from Goody, but I like that he pulled the lever. When John Ralph started nipping around the heels asking about his future, he goes, look, I feel pretty well credentialed. You know, I love this footy club. I've seen it through the highs and lows, and I'm really driven to see it get back, you know. And I went, wow, that's great. Like, I really liked hearing that. And then throughout the week, this week, he said, like, once it clicks, we're going to make some inroads. Like, it's not far away. Once it clicks, like, trust me, once it clicks. And as much as like I really appreciated it, and I did love that from him, I was worried that like in 5 weeks when we're 0-11, you know, people clip that up like people are clipping up the we all love each other stuff and sort of use it against us. But regardless, I love that he showed that side of him, that sort of competitive, driven, like you don't last in the AFL in the highest level as long as someone like Simon Goodwin does, unless you have these qualities. But we never see them. We see this almost like nonchalant, cool, calm, you know, Kane Corns would say lacks aura, almost timid, really polite coach. But to be a coach for that long and a player for that long at the highest level, he does have that grunt and drive and competitiveness, and he really wants to be here for that. Like, he's not checking out. So, like, yeah, there's just a couple of comments in these last couple of presses, which I absolutely loved. But circling back, it's like, yeah, it was great. Midweek, he said, we need to get back to what we do really well without the footy. And we also got to get back to just, like, bashing teams. Yeah. He didn't say it in those words. But he said, like, we got to bring that tackling, that contest. And then what he said in his midweek presser is once we unlock that part of the game, which we're really familiar with, that'll help with our offense. And that was the first time he sort of let us in, sort of behind the scenes a little bit. You know, once we get back to what we know, which we've lost a little bit, it'll help with what we're trying to achieve. And then once again, it's one game, but on the weekend, it felt like we saw that contest and defense, the pressure ended up unlocking easy goals for us, which we've been crying out for the first 6 rounds this season.
Well said. And just back to Andrew Whelan on Twitter. So Melbourne's most tackles inside 50 since 2012. The only other time that we've actually bettered that was with 29, and that was round 20, 2021 versus the Gold Coast. If you remember, that game got rescheduled from the Gold Coast down to Marvel Stadium because of COVID, and we absolutely smashed them, I think to the tune of 90-something points off the top of my head.
Did it get to the ton?
I feel like it got ton, and they chipped it away at it a little bit in a similar fashion to North Melbourne, I think, in 2023 when we got ton and then they brought it under 100, which randomly pissed me off at the time.
So annoying. Just like a lack of ruthlessness. Like, get it to the triple digits.
Come on. That's funny. Actually, that just reminds me, one of my favourite ever games was when we won by 109 points against Carlton in 2018. And I had a couple of Carlton mates who were standing room a bay across from me, and we were just having the best time, just giving them shit. Good blokes, friends of ours, but we, after every goal when it was party time in the second half, we just look around and they just like, stop looking at me, piss off. And I'm like, you can leave. Like, you can go if you want to go. And credit to them, these Carlton boys actually stuck around.
I love that.
So fair play. I think Melky kicked 5 or 6 that day. God, it was fun.
I think that's like, speaking of Wheelo and his ratings, I think that Melksham performance is one of the highest like data ratings
games
potentially of all time, like ever since
it's
been recorded.
I think you're right. So I'd love to go back and look at that one because off the top of my head, I feel like it was a 5-goal, 4-goal assists, 15 score involvements, something just utterly stupid, something like that. So that's a good one. Let's go pick that one up, or if we've got a few other nuffs listening or watching, send it in to us because that was crazy. So yes, 29 tackles in that game against Gold Coast, round 2021, and then 27 in round 8, 2019, I guess, against guess who? The Gold Coast. And then yesterday, 27 tackles, of course, to only Fremantle's 4 inside 50. So the biggest differential since that game against the Gold Coast in 21. So that was equal. That was 29-6. Yesterday was 27-4. It was manic pressure, and 11 of those tackles actually came in the last quarter as well. And just fixating on that last quarter for a bit, and then I want to talk about the party time quarter, which was probably more the second quarter for me. The way we were streaming out of the centre, some of the goals we kicked in that quarter were absolutely epic. But the final quarter, the only downside of it is we kicked the 1-6. So we get ourselves to three-quarter time in really good shape on the scoreboard. We're very, very accurate. You simply cannot understate ever how important accurate goal kicking is in Aussie rules. It is everything. And the fact that we were binning them left, right and centre in the first half set the game up for us. So please, Melbourne, I want more of that. I get so sick and tired of seeing us come out the gates, we're full of fire and we kick a 0-3 or a 1-5 and you're just on the back foot immediately. So hopefully that's a theme moving forward, that Melbourne can be more accurate. But the last quarter, it was the utter desperation of players, and players that we've been hypercritical of in the first 5 weeks of footy. So Max Gawn. Max Gawn goes, we're not fucking losing this. There is absolutely no way. And he played that way in the final quarter. Yes, he missed a couple of set shots. We know that. But he got the 10 disposals. He had the 5 score involvements. He was critical in laying it off to Harvey Langford for the sealer, which I could imagine Kados would have been a beautiful moment at the G. Very jealous not being there for that one. But Gawny was unbelievable. It was Herculean from him. It was leadership personified. I loved what he did in that last quarter. And then I also thought that Clayton Oliver really ramped up and cracked in. And it was that Clayton Oliver that we've seen in the past where he just takes the game by the scruff of the neck. And another one that we've been having a bit of a go at recently is Jack Viney. And I'm sure Jack Viney's been bitterly disappointed with his form of late. It's some of the worst form we've seen in his storied career to date. And for him to respond and for him to knuckle down, I thought for the entire game he was absolutely brilliant. He did an awesome job on Caleb Sarong. He made a lot of Caleb Sarong's possessions very ineffective, just purely by being on his hammer. And Caleb Sarong's kick to handball ratio, I think, was 9-18. And the reason I can't really bring it up is because I've got the most precarious tech setup, and if I bump anything, I'll lose my mic. It's literally hanging by a thread, so I can't move for the entire hour. But I just thought that was a huge performance from him. They simplified his role. They said, you can go to a Rolls-Royce midfielder in Sarong and just make his life hell. And he did. And Sarong still had an impact on the game at times because he's absolute class. But I thought it was not well below the standard of a Caleb Sarong, but he certainly wasn't at his A-grade best. He was maybe a B- in my opinion. So that was huge from Vin, huge from Oliver, huge from Gawn. The senior players that we've had a go at, Tom McDonald, another one. I thought he was absolutely superb. No May, no Lever, no worries. Disco going down at halftime. They keep Petty forward. Such a great footballer, such a great servant for our football club. Tom McDonald probably doesn't get the appreciation he deserves, and I think that deserves its own segment at some point in time, maybe when he hangs up the boots. But I just want to highlight the old guys, because the old guys, for me, in that last quarter, yes, it was a team effort to get over the line, but I thought they really set the tone and they ensured that, all right, this is our day, this is our 4 points.
Yeah, Tom McDonald, man, he's you just know what you're going to get from him, and he had a really good season last season when he went back into defence. It was probably only like the last 3 or 4 games when we'd phoned it in as a footy club and it kept going down really easy, and he probably made a couple of blues, and it felt like he sort of petered out a little bit in season 2024. But for the majority of that season, he was great. And he's just a veteran. Like, he just uses his body the way someone who's played, close to, if not 200 games for the footy club would. Like, he's just hard to play on, and he's quick and he's tall, and he's been great. It was awesome to get Jack Viney back, it felt like. I don't know, like, I know 31 seems old, but players play till 33, 34, 35, and he won a BNF 5-6 months ago. So I've had like a lot of opposition supporters coming out going like, nah, it's over. Like, Viney's done, track's done. Like, it's over. And in my head, I understand if you don't watch the D's that often, then you see, a couple of the performances that we've put out recently, you might just assume like, oh yeah, they're 30 and they've been bad for 2 weeks. The normal brain probably says like it's over. But yeah, I felt like that was a little bit lazy analysis and like lacked a little bit of nuance. Like, I'll back Jack Viney to the hills every day of the week, and I won't put a line through him until he puts a line through himself, which he never does. So it's just great to see. Yeah, I don't know if it was method that changed for us, but the way Clary and Viney hunted and tackled and sort of went in and out of the contest, it was unbelievable on Saturday. They played so well, we needed them to do it. And then it was awesome that Viney got on the scoreboard as well, going the other way. So he sort of did a job on Caleb Sarong and then slotted goals out of the centre clearance. It was
what a goal. What a goal.
Such a good goal. A little zigzag.
Walk.
Yeah.
The walk was ridiculous. I was like, wow.
And he had 3 blokes. It was his goal to kick, but he had Ed Langdon just over the top. And then I reckon he had Track just running past. So I can't believe how we walked it out of the centre clearance. We did that like 6 times and maybe scored 2 or 3 of them, but that happened a lot on Saturday, Arvo.
First half, 4 goals from centre clearance. That is a ridiculous number. It was great to see the fluidity of the boys, the connection in the middle, and it was great to see them make the right decisions. And I said it to the old man, I've been, again, very critical of the way that we've been exiting clearance, and I thought there was a general consideration to just take a little bit more time if you had the space, to not blaze away, to maybe choose the lateral handball, free up a man going inside 50. I thought it was brilliant. It was a big tick for Nathan Jones as well, because the cohesiveness of the midfield from clearance was evident. So we've obviously gone to work on it. We've seen the way that we've been working it out from clearance in recent weeks, and it hasn't been great. There has been a lot of just see ball, get ball, blaze away, and that hasn't helped us. And then the other thing as well, which kind of baffles me, because you've had a whole month of footy where every single media pundit, every single nuffy podcaster like myself, like you, Kados, like all the boys, we sit on this podcast and we go, why do they keep kicking it fucking long to no one? Why do they keep not giving their forwards a chance? Why are the forwards not leading up at the ball and offering a different avenue to go? And the connection piece has been so fascinating for so many years. And there are games where we've clearly got it right. But yesterday was an example of maybe the penny has dropped, because I saw a number of different circumstances where players would pull up, they would look laterally, they would hit up the short kick just outside the top of 50, and then they would look for the handball receive coming through, or they would try that bullet kick into the sweet spot about 30, 40 metres out. And lo and behold, what do we have? We had forwards running at the ball into space. And I just find it so staggering that it's taken us so long to get here. And my biggest hope is that bad habits don't creep back in, because yesterday for me was an example of pressure, pressure, pressure. Please try and bring that again this week. And please try and make that a hallmark of our game again, because that was what 2021 was for me. We manufactured so many goals because one of the first stat lines that I would often look at was inside 50 tackles. And we mentioned that just before, and the data around that. And that was a big one for the footy club in that premiership year. So I'm hoping that DNA is back on show, and hopefully we can sustain it. And then the second part is what I just spoke about there. It's the connection piece. It works yesterday. Get the frickin' tape out, roll it, show the boys all the different circumstances where they've done the right thing, but also show them the circumstances where they got it wrong from yesterday. And Christian Petrarca was liable in that. And there are a few other players, of course, but Christian probably namely one of them, just because he is such an exceptional footballer. And I thought he lowered his colours a little bit in those areas where he either took too much time and he'd missed the option, or he just simply blazed away. So roll the tape, show them what was great, show them what was not so great, and please just try to reiterate the message around, if you need to take a little bit more time to get the sweeping handball coming past, or that little hit-up kick at the top of the 50 and waiting for forwards to lead at the ball, just imprint that in your brains, Melbourne, because that is the way to play footy. And God, it was so sumptuous and it was so nice to watch, Caden.
When you talk about exiting the centre clearance, or even like us around the contest and around stoppages, this season, especially in the early parts of the year, we'd always try and take on a tackler and then give a handball. And it feels like in 2025, with your Max Gawn, he's teaching everyone how to tackle. It's very hard. Like, even when you lift your arms and whatnot, like, every player is strong. Every midfielder is fit, and like, they know how to execute a tackle where they're either going to knock it out, and now in 2025, the holding the ball is so hot. So even if they sort of do just knock it out, it gets called against you. And we've been doing that this whole season, where like Track will try and take on one or two, and maybe fully fit Track can do that. But this season, coming off the injury, he can't. And maybe, Clary potentially has lost half a step, where what he used to do 2 years ago, he can't quite. But they'd always just find themselves in trouble. And it felt like on the weekend, in and around stoppage and in and around our forward 50 entries, we just took the easy kick that no doubt they've been training to do. But honouring that opened up the whole game. So like in and around the stoppages, Clary and Track were like feeding it to each other really quickly. And instead of like, they'd take on the tackler when they had to, like say Clary gave a quick handball to Viney and someone was hot on him, he would be strong and lift the arms and try and, but they'd try and get the ball moving, which looked so much better, and it opened us up. Instead of trying to take on one or two and getting caught, and then going inside 50, it was like that little one that was just there, just hit it and hit it quickly. Like if you take half a second to decide to pull the trigger, the defense collapses in and you're just kicking to a big pack. But it felt like we decided to kick it quickly, and it almost made the Fremantle defenders panic in that first quarter. They gave away 2 or 3 free kicks where we get it in the centre circle, rebounding from defence. A Windsor or a Rivers or whatever would just kick it in. They'd honour that first lead, that really easy option that's leading up from the goal square. They're just about to be 30 out. And Freo would panic because of how quick we would get it in. So in the stoppages, we made it easy for each other by just using it a little bit better and sharing it around. And there, going inside 50, we made it easy for each other as well. And no doubt you show that on a Monday and it'll reinforce what they're trying to do. It's like, oh, hey, instead of making it hard for each other, we made Saturday so much easy for each other. And I still reckon we did it sort of 60% right. Like, I feel like there's still so much scope to really polish up what we did on the weekend and do it so much better. Like, this isn't like a final version of what this game plan could be. This is like the start of it. This is like a really rough like version of it. So I'm excited for us to just polish it up and I don't know. Hopefully later in the year we'll see this scintillating Champagne D's footy.
Goody stays. Goody stays after all. Imagine, and I know I'm being a bit of a smart ass, but Marker and I were being fed income the other night where we were saying none of us want this situation. Like, we want this to turn. We want Goody and all the coaching staff and Brad Green and everyone at the footy club. I would love nothing more than for them to make us all look like fools. Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you want wins, you want victories. And as I said before, once we were in that game and I knew we were going to sustain it, you get halfway through the third quarter and then you get to the end of the third quarter and you're up by 18, 19 points, whatever it was. You are desperate for a victory. You want that feeling. And if the coaching staff continue to probe and push and improve this game plan, as you say, and we win next week against the Tigers, we get a win against West Coast, and then we stroll into the MCG at 3-5 against a very good Hawthorn outfit with absolutely nothing to lose. All the pressure on them, no pressure on us. No one probably expecting us to win that game. And who knows? Who knows? That's the beautiful thing about footy. It can turn very quickly. Now, I'm sitting here and I'm still a believer in my viewpoint that I think we need change at the helm. We need someone else, but more than happy to be proven wrong and more than happy to look like an absolute dickhead and an absolute clown and more than happy to wear the clown suits that Marker and I promised if we won the next 4 games. So they've ticked one off. Get the next 3. I'll go full clown suit. I'll get the paint sorted. I'll just go full berserk clown suit mode, and I would love nothing more than to be sitting in the studio with Tom Marcazzani, both of us decked out, just being like, sign him up for another 3 or 4 years. Now, we'll see what happens. But in all honesty, yesterday it was a pressure release valve. It was relief. It was reward for tactical changes during the week. It was reward for bravery from match committee as well. Of course, Jacob Van Rooyen and Bailey Fritsch, the 2 biggest names to go out of the team. And Tommy Fullerton comes in and he competes. He provides a contest. Daniel Turner, great in the first half.
Fullerton, good in the ruck.
Yeah, good in the ruck, good chop out, and didn't have the biggest day on the stat sheet. But weirdly, I felt like, particularly in the first half, when ball was in his vicinity, good things were happening off the back of it. So I think as a debut game for the football club, it's probably all you could have really asked from him. It would have been nice for him to kick a goal and not shank it out on the full, but I think there was something there to work with, and I think we have to persist. And I think it's pretty simple for me, Kados. I don't think Jacob Van Rooyen and Bailey Fritsch come back into the team. So keep the same mix. Let's go again, and let's see if we can produce the same level of output. Because make no mistakes, that's a very good team in my opinion, Fremantle. I think they've made a pretty sketchy start to their year. I think they're a lot better than their ladder position suggests. I think they'll come with a rush later in the year as they get more in sync with each other. But I really rate them. I think they're a top 6 side, and they have owned us and they have bullied us and they have made us look absolutely pathetic in the last 2 times we've played them. They've had no problems rocking up to the MCG and doing a number on us. Yeah. I think they'd won 5 of the past 7 against us at the home of footy. So that was a big win for us. They are a bogey team. They have disrespected us. They've treated us with contempt. And it was great to see the boys hang in. They were desperate, get the chocolates and play with the method that, as you allude to, hopefully it becomes sustainable and hopefully it becomes something that, regardless of coach situation, the next person that comes in, we know that we're actually playing with a modern game plan.
Yeah. I'll jump on what you said at the start about the clown suits and if we win 4 in a row and the club turning it around. I think your opinion was very sort of like businessy and pragmatic and non-emotional. And at 0-4 and 0-5, it was as good as an opinion as there was out there, because we've come off some great success as a footy club, but we've also lowered our colours in a lot of aspects off field, you know, going from like incidents between teammates, you know, fighting to the Joel Smith to Petrarca. So if you factor all the things that we've heard come out of the footy club throughout like a pretty impressive time on field, as it was off field. And, there's stars that wanted to leave, which is fact. And then you come out of all of that and it feels like you've cleared it and you've gotten rid of the weight of it. To come out 0-5, I think it's a very reasonable position to be like, oh, this just feels like the end. It feels like there's too many cracks. It feels like you can't heal those wounds. So I felt that position was very reasonable. I was just, and I don't even feel vindicated at all because it's one victory, and I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if we drop one against the Tigers or West Coast, given the season, given how it seemed really hard to implement this new game plan. And it's just going to be, I think it's going to be a frustrating year. I think, hopefully it does turn. We win 4 in a row. We become the new Hawks of last season.
And Clowns. Yeah.
Hawks and Clowns. But if I was to be a betting man, I would say, fingers crossed we go sort of 50-50 from here. And I don't even want to declare if we do 50-50. Or don't make finals.
I'd take that. What's that? How many games are left? We've played 6.
I said we would win 10
17.
A couple of weeks ago.
8. Oh, okay. So we're what? Honestly, if we won 8 or 9 games and the game plan looked good and there was upside to it and there was a lot of growth in different individuals going into next year, again, regardless of coach situation, I would take that right now.
Yeah. So I was just more trying to read the tea leaves. They were all telling us that they were working on something. It's going to get worse before it gets better. But when it gets better, it'll click. And we're too proud and we're too good of a list for it not to. So even though I was seeing results where we weren't getting up, I was sort of just holding on to but I keep being told if it turns, it'll turn. What a phrase.
You're a good student. You're a good pupil. You're just sitting there locking in the goodies.
Yeah.
He's telling you, hey, mate, you know what? It's going to turn, and you're just a good student. You're just sitting there like, yes,
propaganda.
Sir. Yes,
propaganda.
I'll abide by you, sir. Whereas I'm the little brat in the classroom who's like, yeah, fuck, it's not working. You can go.
Yeah.
Getting into tension, not listening to the teacher. That's me. You're a good student.
I was also told we'd have a Caulfield home base and, it's got 80,000 members. But, so I was just sort of, just for my own sanity, just being like, oh, well, if what they say happens, it'll be rough to start and hopefully we can flick the switch. Yeah. Now, it feels like it clicked, but I'm not sold that this one victory is going to take us to the promised land. And I'm going to have to see a lot more evidence. But I was sitting there on Saturday thinking to myself, it feels like there's light at the end of the tunnel of this 18-month being in the unknown, not knowing where our footy club's going. I was talking to you before the game on Saturday saying, say we get throttled today, I just want us to declare it. We're rebuilding. Let's all get on the same page. It'll take the media pressure off. Let's just declare it. Why haven't we declared it yet? And maybe they hadn't declared it because they don't see us there and they know that we're recalibrating and potentially, that was just a win that can set us up and put us in the right direction. But
I thought that was spot on, Caden. I thought what you said in the post-match when you're walking out of the MCG, the one that we threw up on the DeeBrief YouTube channel, I think there's something in that. I think the club was so steadfast, particularly Goody, probably the coaching staff, maybe some of the players, that even though it looks so forlorn, they look so dejected after that Essendon loss. The
Geelong loss.
But internally, they're thinking, oh, we know the outside world. We know 95% of Melbourne supporters are thinking that, this is absolutely done and dusted. We were 1-10, for God's sake, coming into that game in our last 11 games. We lost 7 of those 10 by 35 plus. We're in a really, really vulnerable, brittle position going into that game on the weekend. And that's why, yes, well done to them. They've indicated in why they were so steadfast. But I'm with you, and everyone needs to think this way, in my opinion, that it won't mean much if we don't go and get the chocolates in the next couple of games and put a similar game on display. So that's why it's just so crucial to park the emotion of the first victory as much as we possibly can. Enjoy it, savor it. I'll probably go back and watch the replay again tomorrow at some point because it was a thing of beauty. But let's just see what transpires in the next few weeks and what this actually means for the football club in the not so distant. So it's going to be really intriguing, to be honest. Was it a flash in the pan, or was there something real? Is there genuine substance behind what Goody has been preaching? So that's the position we find ourselves in now.
Yeah. Well, I had a little bit of hope at the start of the week. I watched Gary Lyon on AFL 360 and he dropped the days of won inside 50s every game, and teams who win inside 50s in 2025 win 70% of the game. So that's a pretty good start to building a game plan. And then the other one was that we're fifth for ball movement. And that hadn't registered to me because we're only kicking sort of 40s and 50s. So because we haven't celebrated the ball movement by finishing it off with a goal, I hadn't registered that we are peppering it end to end really well. And when you cap your ball movement off with an exclamation mark that is a petty mark inside 50 and a handball to Kozzy who kicks a goal, it makes you realise oh, far out, they shifted that footy so well end to end. And I actually marvelled at it at the weekend. It was crazy. One of my favourite ones was Windsor, who bites off this kick in between Luke Ryan, Kozzy Pickett, and there's someone just over Kozzy's shoulder, hits him lace out, shifts the whole Fremantle defence out of the way because they overcommit to try and get a fist in on Koz. It's the perfect kick. He turns around, wheels, and I think he might have tried to hit up Fullerton, who got the free kick, or maybe Melksham. But there's just multiple times where we used the MCG. I was really worried that we were going to rock up for the third time this season and have an interstate team take 4 points off us at the MCG. And that's happened a lot. Even when we were at the peak of our powers, we dropped games to Freo and Sydney in the middle of the year. And
Giants.
Giants. Teams aren't terrified to come to the MCG and take us on. So I was preemptively frustrated that if we drop this one, it's another one at the G. But it felt like we used the G to our advantage. And it was just amazing. That ball movement is scintillating. And they have been doing it in the losses as well.
Just got to do it more often. That's the key. We should talk about a few incredible performances on the day. I'm not going to run the DMs tonight because of what I explained before, the tech issues here. I don't want to touch my laptop. I don't want to touch some of these cords here because I will ruin the recording. So we'll play some of the DMs on the Wednesday preview with the boys in the studio. It'll just be far easier to do it from the comfort of the Backchat studios, of course. Mate, Jake Bowey, before we speak about Kozzy. Jake Bowey is my best on ground. I thought he set up the entire performance with his first half. He was
best on ground.
I thought he was best on ground. I truly believe he was best on ground. A lot of people go, no, come on, mate. It was Max or it was Kozzy.
Probably across the four quarters. Koz was a little bit quiet in that last quarter.
Koz, after he did the peace symbol when he kicked his fifth goal, which was so big, by the way.
What a crazy thing to do to a potential future teammate. What? And then he almost stuck it up the cheer squad as well.
Great,
is he staying?
Maybe. I mean, he lives a block away from me, and I never, ever want to disturb him ever because I'm not that type of guy. I just leave people alone. Let them just go about their life. He always has the cap down quite a bit because he's doesn't want anyone to see him. And I live in an area where there's a lot of Melbourne supporters. It's a big catchment area for D's fans, and he doesn't want to be seen. But there's this little part of me that's just I want to go up to him and just be like, mate, I don't think you understand how much we idolize you, how much we love you. You are Jeff Farmer 2.0 to us as a supporter base, and I have such trauma from when the Wiz departed the football club. My Hotmail address was AD_Horton33, for God's sake, at Hotmail. So I think I'm going to have to if I see him in the street, Caden, at some point, I'm going to have to say something.
Drop a gift basket.
I'm going to have to say something to Koz and just be like, mate, you are one of the very reasons why I go to the footy. And it's one of the very reasons I go to the footy in general. And I've spoken about this before. The Aboriginal players in our game are the most exciting to watch by a country mile. Let's stay on Kozzy. We'll get back to Jake Bowey. But
sorry, Bowser.
Sorry, Bowsy. Bowsy. But He lights up the MCG in the same way that Liam Jarrah did and in the same way that Jeff Farmer did. And we didn't get much of Liam, but my God, he was a shining light in the darkest of days. But Jeff Farmer had this ability to just take a game away from you. And that's exactly what Kozzy was doing in that first half. It was ridiculous. The one that he actually misses, where he kicks it from 60, 65 out.
Yeah.
Oh, and it just clears the boundary line. And he just made it look so easy and so simple. He was on absolute fire, and it was even some of the crunching tackles. There was a big tackle on Pearce when it was in congestion. There was a ball up in our front half. He's an absolute animal. He's a fierce competitor, and his poise and his class from the middle as well, streaming out of clearance. And I think he attended nearly 70% of centre bounces, and we just look so dynamic in that area of our game. He is Cyril 2.0. He really is. He's Cyril 2.0. He's the Wizard 2.0. And I just love him so much. Like, it is crazy how much I love Kozzy Pickett and how much I want him to find a way to recommit to the footy club. And I know it gets bloody cold in Melbourne, and he's not going to be looking forward to the next few months. And it's been really weird how hot it's been, back end of April. And I know he's got a lot of family over there in Perth and he wants to get back there. But if there's some way, Caden, that we can convince this young man who is an absolute superstar, who, if he continues this form, will absolutely be an All-Australian this year. There is no doubt about it. That's the form line that he's already got in the first 3 games that he's played in this season. Whatever we need to do, just keep him at this football club, because he's the type of player, the type of X factor that you need in a football team when we start contending again. And his peak years will probably happen when our window opens up again in 3 or 4 years' time. That's where I think we're at in terms of our path. But I just love him. I just want him to stay, and that's my simple message. And it's performances like yesterday where you just cherish what Kozzy is all about.
He's so professional as well. Like, year after year, he has gotten fitter and fitter, stronger and stronger. And the shape that he's got his body in for this season is just primed and ready to go. And he's done things and, won games off his own boot and done stuff on the footy field up to this point that has mesmerised us as Melbourne supporters, where we know what we've got, but he hasn't done it consistently enough for the wider AFL community to realise. Like, I remember Brad Green said, you can get Koz, but you're going to have to give up 3 first rounders. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely fair. Like, for his age and for his potential, like, and I think I might have posted and sort of backed up Greeny. And there was a lot of neutral supporters replying saying, you are kidding yourself. Like, he's very inconsistent, and, just almost tall poppy syndrome. And I was saying, well, this is the best small forward that I've ever seen at the footy club. I think he's a generational small forward, and he's one of the best I've seen. And someone was like, you literally had the whiz. And I said, that was 20 years ago. Like, so we're going to wait. Like, players like this don't come around every 5 years, 6 years. If Kozzy leaves the footy club, we won't see another player like that for 20, 25 years. That's how good he is. He's got the Cyril traits. Like Charlie Cameron, he's an unbelievable small forward. Yeah. But he doesn't have the marking ability of Koz. Tyson Stengel is an unbelievable small forward, but he doesn't go through the midfield as well as Koz. And then there's like other players like a Jack Higgins. He's a great crafty small forward, but he's not as physical. He's not as quick. He's not as lively. And then there's that little bit of magic that you can't almost sum up, which is the way he can put it through the big sticks from any angle, from any time, from any area. He is an absolute freak of nature. And on one hand, I'm sort of accepted that he's probably going to go. And on one hand, I'm excited that we will get well compensated. Like, I can't imagine us budging, because he is contracted on anything less than absolute overs. But he's irreplaceable. So, there's not another player around the league that can replace him. And there's not a player in the draft that's going to have the impact for us next season that he will. So he's just so important. He's just so important. And he's going to have, like, I reckon in 2025, he'll have another 4 or 5 games like that. Like, he's poised to do that semi-regularly. And I just hope that his quieter games are sort of like 15-2, and he sort of ticks the scoreboard over and keeps the pressure up. But he's now fit enough to run through the midfield, that 70% of the time. So he's good to go. Like, we're going to see this plenty this season, I think.
I'm calling it. He'll have a 30-5 at some point, or a 30-6. He'll do something stupid. And he's already having low 20s, creeping up into the mid-20s and kicking multiple goals a week.
Well, I can't see anyone.
The trajectory is just crazy. Like, he is up and up and up. And I feel like this is just the beginning. And your point is so spot on, Caden. He has got fitter and stronger every single preseason. He's so professional. And I think a lot of us thought it was going to happen this year. We'd finally see the All-Australian version of Kozzy and posting up these numbers. I think it's going to be really scary where he finds himself at the end of the year. So on one hand, it makes it really tricky as a supporter because you are just yearning for this bloke to stay at your football club. You are yearning. You are just sitting there going, please don't leave us, because it'll make us even more devastated knowing that we're potentially getting rid of this incredible asset. And there's a part of me that thinks he'll at least stick around for next year, and then he might leave at the end of next year, just so that we can get a good trade coming back the other way and we don't risk, walking to the draft or whatever, which I don't think would happen. But I've got this weird feeling he'll stick around for at least next year. And in that time, it's probably on us, whether it's Simon, whether it's a different coach that's come in, whether it's a CEO, whether it's a GM of footy, whether it's Steve Smith, the new president who's coming in, someone in the football club to just sit down with him and just explain to him what the pathway to another premiership window looks like, to try and convince him that this is the place he should play his footy. Now, if that has nothing to do with it and it's just purely family reasons, like, so be it. And that's the other part of the equation for me. No matter what happens, if he continues on this upward trajectory that I think he's just definitely on now, and he's just starting out on this crazy journey of being one of the best footballers in the league, I think he will be a top 5 or a top 10er consistently for a 4 or 5 year period. And if he is, and he is homesick and he wants to go back for family reasons, and there's nothing we can do, then my God, we will get a big haul. And Brad Green, a lot of people shot him down, but it's not going to be too far off.
It was pretty handy that he did it against Freo as well. Like, I feel like there'd be a couple of Freo executives or list managers up the back of the box going, geez, we are going to have to pay top dollar for this young man. And no doubt he set himself for that game. And I think, and I hope I'm not talking out of school, but I think I've seen on social media that it might have been his daughter's birthday in and around this weekend, and they had some family over. He's obviously got some close ties to the Fremantle Footy Club, and Shea Bolton's one of his best mates. So he's running around at the MCG, hot, beautiful day. He just set himself to have a ripper, and he did. He had a blinder, but it was pretty funny that he was like sort of sticking it up the Freo cheer squad, sticking it up the players, getting into them all. It didn't appear like a player that was just about to join them, but maybe none of that had anything to do with it. But yeah, he was just awesome. One of the great performances that I've seen. And your forecast against Richmond, like, they've got some good midfielders and a lot of good young talent, but there's no one that stands beside him on Anzac Day Eve that will have any influence on his game. There's not one. You can't run with him. No. You can't outbody him. Like, he's strong, so you can't bash him. You're not quicker than him. You don't have better footy IQ than him. He could have an absolute game and a half on Thursday night. And
he will. He'll light it up because that's what he does. Back to Lil Bow Wow and a few other players, and then we'll start to slowly ease into a wrap-up, Kados, because you and I want to go watch the blockbuster between St Kilda and the Doggies. Give us a score check while I rattle through this, but 29 disposals for Lil Bow Wow. He went at 90% efficiency. He had a crazy amount of metres gained. He was almost up to 500 at a half time, so he had 649 metres gained. he was so clean. He is so tough. He plays well above his weight division, little Bow Wow. And he's got continuity in his game and in his body. He's healthy. He looks fierce AF. And the other thing I really like, someone put it on social media. I think it was on the DeeBrief page and said, I'm here at the game. It was halftime. The thing I love about Bowey as well, they were down near the sidelines and they could hear him just marshalling and bit of a leader, bit of an underrated general,
Nice.
apparently there in the defensive unit. So I love this kid. He's a cracker.
Yeah.
He's having a ripping year. He would definitely be in the top 5 of the BNF for me, if not top 3. Some people saying he could be leading it. Who knows? But even if he's not, just the sheer fact that he is at a bare minimum in that conversation in the Bluey Keith Truscott medal race at the moment for the first 6 rounds is wild. It's great. It's just the evolution of a player that we knew there was something in there. He goes and wins a flag, plays first 7 games, goes 7-0, gets a premiership medal, becomes a cult figure. 2022-23, yeah, good, but not like hitting any lofty heights, maybe second, third year blues, those types of things creep in. And then, of course, last year with the collarbone injury. So now he's at the point where he's been in the system for a while and clearly he's just got his fitness base back. And the thing I love about him is just the time and the care that he takes with his kicking. He just picks up the ball and he just really works through what is the best option. And he's got that penetrating, darting kick that you need coming out of D50 and very important in the modern era. And I love his one-on-one contests. And I think we're all just going to be able to sit back this year and just revel in what Jake Bowey can be by the end of 2025 because this kid's on a pretty incredible path. And I think it's only us as supporters who realise it. And I think the broader competition will start to realise it as the year goes on.
Around the grounds, thanks to Backchat Studios, the Bulldogs 3-4-22, St Kilda 4-1-25. Ball burster on a Sunday night.
Whoa, good game. I like it.
Yeah, Jake Bowey, he could almost be winning our BNF. I feel like he's been best on at least 2 games and maybe, he's been pretty consistent throughout. I reckon if you looked at our BNF at the moment, it might be like Jake Bowey, Kozzy Pickett, Cade Chandler almost. Like it might be a real ragtag bunch of names. But
true.
I don't know. Like Jake Bowey sort of, he's sort of an example of a lot of players in our team that some people see like their progress becomes non-linear, so some people write him off. And I can't do that because I've seen Jake Bowey play football to a level that I think is going to be a 200 game, really important part of our footy side going forward. And yeah, he got lost for 18 months through injury and whatnot. But you can't write those players off. Like if you've seen them perform at the highest level, unless it's injury related and like their body gives up on them, like they're going to be good players eventually when they get continuity. And I feel like Petty's almost one of those players that we've seen his best. Like he can sit on Tom Hawkins in his peak years in 2021 and do a job at, age 20. And then we've seen him swing forward and kick 4, 5, 6 goals before. So when he goes into the wilderness for a couple of years and people jump off, 100% valid with his output last year. Like, it's just crazy that he kicked 9 goals all season. He's kicked, I think, 5 in 2 weeks this year. But I just don't write him off because I'm like, oh, well, if it clicks again for this bloke and he puts it together and gets that continuity and that consistency, I give him a tick. Like, when I see the starting 22, I go, Harrison Petty, tick. He can play the game of AFL at the highest level. And Jake Bowey's just one of those who's like now putting it together every week, getting a lot more of the footy. In the first couple of weeks, it felt like Jake Bowey was the only one that knew the game plan. Like there was some kicks he did when we were playing North Melbourne. And I remember going, that's either like a ridiculous decision made by Jake Bowey, which we've never seen before, or he's actually made the right decision and none of our blokes know how to play the new game plan and just aren't in position. He's becoming a leader. He's becoming consistent. And he's that quarterback. Like, I know that gets used a lot in the AFL, but we've got some weapons off the half back line. Like, Salem's been in form recently.
Bit better.
Yeah, he's getting there. I was watching some highlights of him last season running around with the blonde hair. I'm glad the blonde hair's gone. I'm glad he's getting back to using the left peg. But yeah, so we got like Windsor who can kick it,
Yep.
Salem who can usually kick it,
Lindsay?
Lindsay, Bowey, Rivers. So that
Yep.
half back line's chock a block with talent, and we've got Judd McVie to come back in. So it's a pretty healthy position of the ground for us.
Yeah, I agree. And just on Harrison Petty kicking the 4 goals, goes forward. I give myself a little clip here. Last week, when Goody made the decision to put him forward in the second half of the Essendon game, the one thing which was kind of stupid of me is it definitely straightened us up. It gave us a focal point. We kicked 5 goals in the third quarter against Essendon. We look a completely different team. Harrison Petty was a big part of that, but I decided to gloss over it because of the result and the outcome. And I thought, oh, well, who cares? It happened for a quarter, whatever. What a stupid decision. Harrison Petty was pretty ordinary last year as a forward, of course. And then I was
And
in the car.
bad. He was bad last year.
Yeah, it was bad. And like, it was blatantly obvious for all to see. But I was in the car for the first 20 minutes of the first quarter. So I had to listen to Triple M and it was shit house. But anyway, I don't know. The older I get, the more I just can't do radio commentary anymore. I used to love it as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've just changed. I just want to see it. So I couldn't see it because there was no reception. So I had to put the radio on. We're racing to get to Yarrawonga in enough time to jump into the house and watch it with the old man and the little brother. And Isaac Smith's like, Harrison Petty's gone forward. And I just turned to my wife and I'm like, ugh. She goes, what's wrong? And I go, they've put a bloke forward that kicked less than 10 goals in 19, 20 games last year. And she was like, oh, who's that? And I said, Petty. And she's like, oh, yeah, I know Petty. She's like, oh, yeah, you complained about him a lot last year. And I was like, yeah, I did. A lot. If I was watching games at home because we were just about to have the other little tacker, little Jasper, there was a lot of, oh, Petty. Petty this, Petty that. And I did moan and groan in the car. And then, of course, he bobs up with those 2 goals in the first quarter. And I got to, obviously, at halftime, I went back to watch all the goals from the first quarter and he flushed that one from outside 50 in front of the members.
Such a nice kick.
He did the nice little celebration, little flush celebration.
The basketballs.
Yeah, what's that? Steph Curry, they said on the telecast. It was very cool. So, yeah, cool for a white guy, a ranger. But I don't know. I'm so conflicted with this because I've said for many, many months, almost an entire year, I don't know if I believe in it, but he's such a strange footballer. He hobbles around. It looks like he's done an injury. And Marker made a really good point in our thread. He plays the game as if he's a 45-year-old. And when the ball is in his area, he just like comes to life. And he's got this extra turn of speed and he can put pressure on the ball carrier and he can outbody. And it's like he can't be bothered until the ball is right there in his general vicinity. And he, as I said, like he genuinely just sparks into life. And he provided such a great contest, gets on the end of some good work, kicks 4 goals, and you go, well done to Goody. Great move in the end. Just whether it's the sustainable move moving forward.
Yeah.
I just need to see it again for a few more weeks. If he rolls with it for another 2 weeks and it works, then maybe we're getting ourselves back to the second half of the 2023 area where he bins the 6 goals against Richmond. He kicks the 3 against North before he goes down with an injury. If we're getting back there, cool. I'm here for it. I just don't know whether this thing is going to actually work for us. That's all.
He's actually a good footballer. Like, he's such a good key position AFL footballer. I keep ranting and raving about what he does in defence. He straightens us up when we have May and Lever down there. Like, we need either Tommy Mack or a Petty or someone to complement them. And he has done a really good job for a lot of years down there. And then we have seen him go forward, and he didn't have scoreboard impact, but this is the 2022 final series where he just starts clunking every ball that went near him. And what I've always loved about Harrison Petty is at full flight, he's a one clunk marker. Like, he can really get the jukes nice and sticky, but his craft in the forward line last year was horrendous. He wanted to wrestle like a defender. Like, he just wanted to wrestle players all year. And obviously he lost a step because he was coming off no preseason with the cracked foot. And he just makes it so hard for himself. And Rue does it a little bit as well, where you're not bigger and badder than all these key defenders, but you're trying to play their game by just having them hang off you. And what I liked about Petty on the weekend was he wanted that run and jump, and he led really well at the footy. Like, that mark he took in the first quarter, which was 20 metres out, was good full craft where he gets separation. He's a great, like, not a great footballer, but he's a good footballer. He's a good average footballer who, at his best, and he's still quite young. I think he's only 25, 26. So those key positions blossom at 28. So I don't know. I'm pumped for the man, and I'm pumped for us that we can straighten ourselves up with someone like him. One play that I want to highlight is he ended up like almost horizontal and fell on his back because he got tunneled, because he just threw himself at this contest. And I reckon Track crumbed it front and center and got the snap. And that was like Harrison Petty just willing himself to the contest, drawing 2 or 3 defenders towards him. He ends up on his ass, falls on his back, and Track finishes the job. But yeah, I don't know. We're a better side when Harrison Petty's in form. And like, I know he has been frustrating. It's been hard to be patient with him, especially the last year or so, but it was good to see him back.
Big time. One player, and Harvey Langford, we didn't give enough of a mention to, but the 17 disposals, couple of goals, his class, his poise. Xavier Lindsay, very good. Caleb Windsor, just you throw a blanket across those 3. It feels like they're a unit coming through with this side at the moment. But the Harvey Langford moment was awesome. Just to be there, waiting, taking his opportunity, kicking a big goal. Just really happy for that young kid. He's superb. He's an absolute ripper. Can't wait to see him when I'm back at the G on Thursday night. But Trent Rivers deserves a mention.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in on Langford. It's cool that like, he wasn't playing early in the season because he's this big-bodied mid, and they couldn't find a position for him, obviously, given the way our midfield lines up. And then it was almost like they didn't know where to put him, so they put him in the VFL. Like, instead of being sub or not really having a position for you, we'll chuck you in the 2s. But what I like is his draft comparisons were Jack Crisp and Hayden Young and like line-breaking, outside, fit users. So they ponged him on the wing, and that removes that Billings type, that removes that sort of, Woden type when they come in. And Harvey Langford's smart enough to keep his width. He values like the tackling and the defensive side. So I just really like that they've created a position for him, and it's not his natural position, but he's smart enough of a footballer to make it his own. So I really like that move to give him game time, because obviously like it's a bit of a trend to give you high draft picks game time on the half back line and whatnot. But we've put him on a wing, and he looked comfortable. It was actually pretty cool. At one stage it was Lindsay on one wing, Harvey on the other, and it was like, oh man, that's our future.
Absolutely. And that's what gets me excited. And I've been saying that consistently for the last month. So happy that he got his just desserts with that goal. That was awesome. I'm just quickly, Spargo, 19, bit better.
19, that's high for Sparks.
Yeah, he was better. He made a few mistakes here and there, but I think this is a guy that just needed a bit of time given the long, lengthy layoff. So looks like he's got some continuity. He's starting to show some better signs. I also want to give a mention to Blake Howes really quickly before we speak about Riv Dog and wrap up, because Blake Howes is another player who's a little bit maligned by the supporter base. It's such a tricky position to play as a third key tall down there in defence, one that's been under the cosh as well, especially last year at times and early this year as well. And he's come in, there's no May or Lever there. There's no Disco after halftime, who I thought was going really well. So he had to change up his matchup at halftime, so he had to go to a miss instead. And I thought he did as well a job as he could have hoped, and I thought he was desperate, and I thought he was much better in the ground ball game. which I've been critical of. So well done to Blake Howes. I think he deserves a mention as well because he stood up and he held his own really well, particularly in some one-on-ones. And he doesn't always get the nicest positive reviews from Melbourne supporters. I think he's a bit of a whipping boy, but I just wanted to make mention of him. But just on Rivdog to wrap up, we love Rivdog. He's got some mongrel bastard about him. He's a beautiful man, by the way. He's an absolute rooster. I've never really stood next to him, but you did a goal kicking challenge with him. Is he just like, is he what you see on the telly? He's just, his hair's perfect. He's ripped. Like, is he what you see on telly?
Yeah, he's perfect.
Yeah.
He's absolutely perfect, Riv. The hair,
the teeth.
He's got the cheeky little smile.
He's got
good height, cut from the right cloth. Our man, Riv.
No, he's an absolute rooster, Riv. But Riv, 26 disposals, a goal, 10 marks. I thought he was great. I thought he was really, really good. I gave him a 8 out of 10 in my player ratings that I did this morning. And it was the response or the performance that he needed because it's not been a great start to the year for him. We know there's some mitigation around that with the fact that his role has changed. He had to go back behind the ball, Chad McVee being out, and him on his Wakefield going down with an injury, Caleb Windsor missing a bit of footy with a foot infection. So you train a whole preseason to be a full-time mid, and he did that really well in the back half of 2024. And then suddenly you back in defence. And I was a bit harsh on him because I thought, well, hang on, mate, you played your whole career there. Like, surely you can sort it out. But he was training every single week to do something entirely different. So I think I was a bit harsh in that respect. But that was awesome yesterday. That was vintage Riv. I love the goal. I love his mongrel bastard. And this is probably the greatest point to wrap it up on before I get your quick thoughts about heading to the G on Thursday against Richmond, Kados. But the desperation of the man to lunge and get a hand in and dack Jai miss when he's running into goal.
Yeah.
And he scuppers his kick, and it was a really critical time in the game because it just simply would have given Freo more time on the clock. And that act alone, for me, just summed up the entire Melbourne performance. We were so desperate to get the 4 points.
Yeah.
Rivdog was great, and that tackle was everything to us. And I think listening to the commentary or watching it on TV, I think you could hear the Melbourne supporter base after that particular moment. It was stirring. Everyone just feeling like, oh, God, Freo are coming like a freight train. They're going to pinch this one from us. And it's acts of desperation like that that sum up how hard it is to win games of footy.
Yeah.
It's such a brutal competition. You've got to get so many things right. And well done to Riv on that moment. And I'm just hoping that that moment gets highlighted in the review throughout the week. This is what we're all about, boys. We defend for our lives. Let's continue to do more of that moving forward.
Yeah, I think Riv highlights like a lack of ego that is still within the footy side. Like, I guess for a couple of weeks there, we got a little bit selfish and players were playing a little bit independently when the going went tough over the last couple of weeks. But overall, for a sustained period, there's been a lack of ego at the footy club. And, Jack Viney, dropping the ego, playing on Sarong, trying to negate him, as accomplished as Jack Viney is in the side, sort of sums up the lack of ego. And Trent Rivers, accepting a different role, which happens to be a very familiar role to him, and going in defence and just doing his job. Yeah, it sums up, I don't know, the selflessness that's still there for the footy club. I loved his goal. I loved his celebration. There was a lot of celebrating on the weekend. I know that we've heard plenty about the love that's down at the footy club, and it's hard to love each other when you're on 5 and you're battling, and it's a little bit easier when you're kicking 80 points to half time and you're flying. So, but it was good to get a glimpse into it. Like, these blokes, it's a pretty connected bunch of boys, and it has been for a little while. And it was great. Like, the snags they were kicking, they were absolutely getting around each other. And it looked like the days of old for one afternoon, and it's only one afternoon, and we've got to do it for the rest of the season to get any sort of trust back from the supporters. But it was, a little bit of sustenance for our season.
Love it. Thursday, Anzac Eve, special occasion. I savour it. I love it. The mood in the ground, everyone getting their phones out, their lights on, and remembering those people that have fought for this country. I'm just really proud that the football club got this fixture. Like, it's ours. It's
It's
ours.
such a cool night.
It's a cool night, and it's awe-inspiring. There's a higher purpose to it. And suddenly it's going to be a cool game because Richmond were brilliant last night. You were at Marvel watching them against the Suns, and the Suns are a top team this year, and I think they'll definitely make finals for the first time. So a huge win for Richmond. They've got a lot of young, exciting kids coming through. They're playing with the freedom. They've already got 2 wins on the board. So suddenly you've got a scenario that looked a bit bleak only a couple of days ago where you're thinking about Thursday, Anzac Eve, and, oh, God, are we even going to get 60 in there?
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to get a minimum of 70, 75. I've even said to you over text, Kados, I reckon we're going to crack 80 plus because why not? Richmond are up and about. Their supporters are happy. They've got a bright future probably in front of them. And then Melbourne have had their first win, and 25K rock up to the Freo game when you don't expect nearly that much. And it looks like the supporters are digging in and they're getting behind our boys, and let's hope they get there on Thursday because I just think it'll be a really refreshing watch between two teams that are probably not going to make finals, but these are the nights that hopefully we can cherish when we look back on 2025, coming up against an Adam Muse coach side that are emerging, against a Melbourne side that are trying to recalibrate and find their identity again. So I think we can go into it with a bit of a spring in our step all of a sudden.
Yeah, Uze's got him playing a really exciting brand as well. So, as you said, at the very least, I feel like it's going to be a great contest. The weather should be perfect. It's Thursday night with the day off, the day after. So, I don't know. I get really fixated on every second season when we host both Anzac Day Eve and King's birthday, because I know how much money you could potentially miss out on if you don't get numbers to the game. And it's really hard for the footy club where we get the gate for both one year and then we don't get the gate for either the following season. So knowing that we're 0-5 and we do host the Tigers and we do host the Pies, I hope that we don't waste it and we do get like a 60, say we got like a 65,000 rock up and that's 20 odd thousand short. That would be really disappointing from a business standpoint for the footy club. So I'm really hoping that the supporters can get excited by a Kozzy Pickett performance. Tracks humming again, Gawn's humming. The big Harrison Petty kick 6 against this mob a couple of years ago. He's going to be standing one out in the goal square in front of 75, 80,000 on a perfect Thursday night. I'm hoping that the supporters can get around it. If you're going to get around to one game, don't save it for a GWS Sunday 120. This is sort of our grand final every year. It's under lights. The whole competition tunes in to watch our footy club go about its business. And if we bring half of what we brought on Saturday, we're going to be exciting. Chandler's going to be putting the heat on. Kozzy's going to be kicking him out of his ass. Gawny's going to be taking Leo Barry's in defence. So use your memberships, get there early, have a bev, unless you're under 18, have a solo and get around this footy club because hopefully we can do it for 4 more quarters.
4 more quarters. And Judd, Chris McVee will be slicing them up. I hope he returns. I love watching him play footy. Hope he comes in.
And May?
Don't know about Stephen. I think Stephen might be out for a bit longer than we realise. I haven't really followed that one up, but that's my gauge on the situation. So we'll see. But maybe we don't need him. Maybe Jed Adams gets a go. Never know.
Yeah. Oh, I suppose Disco's out, isn't he?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, true. I didn't even think about that.
Might have to look at Jed. And if you're going to run the gauntlet with a player that maybe he's not ready, maybe he's not, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Richmond, but it might be the game for him, Katos. Might be the game. All right, we'll leave it there, mate. It's been a pleasure, as always. Love your positivity. You've been bullish. You've been hanging around. You've been like, nah, I'm not willing to throw the towel in. You said it the other week. You said, if we're 0-6, I'll put my hand up. I raised the white flag, and you just snuck it in, mate. We're 1-5, so well done to you.
Yeah, when we didn't get over the line against the Bombers, I'd almost thrown the baby out with the bathwater. But, geez, I wasn't expecting the Freo result. So that's handy. We just got to keep it going. Like, it means nothing if we don't win the next 6 anyway.
Exactly. That's right. Well, mate, it's been a pleasure. Go and watch the blockbuster. We'll wrap it up there. Myself, Adzi, I think Darker, in the studio on Wednesday against, well, he won't be Dark this week. He's very up and about. In the studio to preview the big clash against Richmond, Anzac Eve, of course. Special occasion. Get there. No excuses. If you're in Melbourne, you're a Melbourne supporter. Even if you're not a paid-up member, don't give a shit. It's our home game. Get there, embrace it for what it is, and watch Kozzy kick a bag and hopefully have a big win. And I think I'm doing a Casey report on Tuesday with Cam Burt as well. And Russell Robertson, we're going to have to track him down now. Maybe he was a bit muzzled in the last few weeks because he was going to say a few things and fly off the hammer because he's a very passionate Melbourne man. But we'll track down Robbo as well and ensure we get an episode of Russell, listen to me, I need to wrap up. Robbo's rundown out very soon. If it's not this week, because it's a short week, it'll definitely be the week after. That's it. Wrap it up there. Love you and leave you. Go D's. Love the club.